Are you curious how your net worth compares to other people your age? Net worth is a key measure of your overall financial health, so it's crucial to know exactly where you stand. Whether you're starting your career in your 20s, maybe you're carrying some student debt, settling into financial stability in your 40s, or preparing for retirement in your 60s, today's video is going to focus on data that shows exactly how each age group compares. Empower has compiled a list of essentially net worth by age for individuals, so let's take a look at this for a minute. So they separate these categories into average net worth, so this number is often higher than you might think, and that's because this includes any outliers. So if somebody is 20 years old and, for example, they have a net worth of $20 million, it's going to drastically skew this average number to be much higher than you may have expected. Whereas the median net worth might be a more true average because it's the actual middle number of all the net worths they assessed per age group. So based on the most recent data from 2024, the median net worth for people in their 20s is $7,522. Let's talk about why this number sits where it does. So for a lot of people, they might go to college and then they're graduating when they're 22, 23 years old. And a lot of them are coming out of their university experience with at least some degree of student loan debt. So of course that factors in here. A lot of college students have a part-time job. I know I did, of course, to pay for living expenses, a car, and for a little bit of extra fun money. But of course we know that this doesn't mean that people in their 20s have $7,522 sitting in their bank account. This is their median net worth, meaning that of all of the people in this age range, they have around $7,522 more in assets than they do in liabilities. And I wanted to quickly talk through a real life example of exactly how you can calculate your own net worth. So let's say that you have $7,500 in your checking account, and then you have an additional $15,000 in retirement by the time you leave your 20s and enter your 30s, but you still owe $50,000 in student debt and you have $15,000 in car debt. That means that your overall net worth is actually negative $42,500. And you certainly wouldn't be alone, especially compared to other people in their 20s and 30s who probably similarly have student loan debt that's actually drawing their net worth into those negative numbers. And if you didn't go to college and you got a decent paying job right out of high school, you may be skewing this number upwards a bit. Or even people who got a good paying job out of college and started investing, saving, and building wealth can obviously skew this number as well. So in that case, you may actually fall closer to the average net worth, which of course includes all of those individuals that may be outside the norm. And the average net worth for this age range is $113,084. So as you can see, the median, which shows the middle of the distribution curve, is likely a bit more accurate and a better representation of just how you stack up to people in your own age group. And if you really want to aim high, let's say you want to be in the top 10% net worth for this age bracket, you'll need a net worth around $281,000. And if you want to be in the top 1%, you'll need $435,000. So all of that being said, what are some financial goals that you should be aiming for in your 20s? The first goal, which is saving. So at this stage of life, you should be aiming to save around 15 to 20% of your total income. Let's say you make $50,000 a year in your first adult job. So that would mean that you could save or invest $7,500 to $10,000 each year. And let's say that you're planning on working until you're 67 years old. So if you're investing this money and you're putting it to work for you for roughly, let's say 47 years for this first example, assuming that you're starting to invest at around 20 years old, then you'll have roughly $4 million by the time you retire. Now, let's say that you don't start investing this amount until you're nearly 30 years old. So for roughly 37 years, you'll still have almost $2 million by the time you retire. Now, the median net worth currently for someone who is retirement age is $410,000. So as you can see, both of these examples that I just showed you would put you much farther ahead than someone who is actually currently retirement age. Just again, going to show you the power of investing early and often, as I talk about so much on this channel. Eliminate or prevent consumer debt. As I've said before, consumer debt, especially in the United States, seems to be running absolutely rampant, and that's because of a few factors. The first is natural human behavior. We're absolutely terrible at self-control. And one of the reasons that we're so bad at it is because companies have gotten so good at marketing. The average customer needs to see an ad about 7 times before they decide to make a purchase. And that's incredibly easy because we're all constantly attached to our phones and therefore built-in advertising everywhere we go. So obviously avoid credit card debt. That's the highest interest debt you could ever acquire. So make sure that you have a budget and you're actually sticking to it. The second type of debt is student loan debt. Because higher education is so expensive, this may be unavoidable for at least the near future. Obviously, if you have a job while you go to school, this may be able to offset some of this a little bit, but try to get as low of an interest interest rate as possible, and make sure that you have a plan to pay that debt off as quickly as possible once you graduate. The third type of debt is car debt. Again, pay for a car in cash if you can save up and do that. Maybe decide if you need a car at all. You can even fix up a paid off car if you have that option, or again, try to get the lowest interest rate possible if you absolutely need to get a new car right now. And now the third one is to have a direction. Your 20s are kind of your time to decide where you want to go in life. So maybe you're in school trying to decide what you want to major in, or maybe you're out in the working world seeing where you might want to work long term. And in this day and age, obviously you don't have to choose one pathway. I certainly didn't. If you've been following my YouTube career, you know I now do YouTube. I'm a real estate investor. I have an e-commerce business and a few software businesses, and that has really benefited me long term. It seems like the more that you diversify your income now, especially while you're young, and the more income streams that you can build up, obviously the more money you're going to make long term. So whatever field or fields you choose to go into, again, just make sure that there is that potential there for your income to increase as you get older. 30s. Typically your 30s are the time for feeling more secure in your job, maybe getting married, buying your first home, and even having kids, which can all be pretty expensive and big ticket items. The median net worth for this age range is roughly $35,000, with again, the average net worth for this group of individuals skewed much higher to $317,000. Now, I should say that if student loans are the thing that are preventing you from reaching that $35,000 net worth at this stage of your life, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it too much, but I would make sure that this decade between your 30s and your 40s is the time that you actually do pay off your student loans, so that by the time you hit 40 years old, you can start investing and building wealth and putting your money to work for you, and that money actually has time to compound before you retire. Again, if you want to set some lofty goals for yourself and be in the top 10% for people in this age group, you'll need a net worth of $711,000, and to be in the top 1%, you'd need roughly $2.5 million. So again, let's say you don't start investing until your 30s, and now you're making around $62,000 per year. So if you start investing 20%, let's say that's $12,400 each year. Again, you plan to work until you're 67 years old, and let's say you start investing this way at 30 years old. So by the time you retire, you'll have roughly $3 million. And if you waited until you were 39, let's say 40, investing that amount of money for roughly 27 years, you'd still reach that millionaire status by the time you retire. Now, as I already said, typically in your 30s, you're a little bit more established in your career, and you're probably making more money now than you were in your 20s. And while it's totally okay to enjoy some more lavish living every now and again, it's really important to not let lifestyle creep and increased cost of living creep in. Remember, just because you're making more money doesn't mean you need to spend more money. So enjoy life, but make sure that you set a savings goal and you're actually sticking to it so that you don't become one of the 65% of consumers living paycheck to paycheck. The other goal that's important to accomplish in your 30s is paying off all debt, except for obviously your mortgage. I've been working as a real estate investor for nearly a decade now, and even I don't think that paying for a property in cash is very smart. So utilize leverage to your advantage, put down 20% on your property or on your properties, and do something else with the additional funds. So basically what I'm trying to say is that this is the decade that your money mindset should really be shifting, essentially from just getting by or just paying your bills each and every month, if that's how you've been living, to focusing on building lasting wealth. Now, when it comes to cars and the recently imposed on again, off again, unpredictable tariffs, if you can hold onto your car, that would be great. I actually recently paid mine off it must have been 2022, my Jeep Grand Cherokee, and it's been incredibly nice to just not have a monthly car payment and to have a pretty reliable vehicle. So make sure that you're really looking into your options here. Maybe wait until you have enough money saved up to buy a car in cash so that you can avoid paying those very high interest rates. Consider fixing up an existing car, or even see if you can do away with your car altogether. Moving on to your 40s, the median net worth is $125,000, with the average net worth at $791,000. Again, starting to be even more skewed by those high earners, those high net worth individuals. If you want to be in the top 10% at this age, you'll need to shoot for a net worth of about 1.3 million. And if you want to be in the top 1%, you'll need a net worth of just over 9.2 million. A few financial goals to keep in mind during this decade include 1, 1, having your retirement number in mind. Now, this includes both what age you'd like to retire at and how much money you'd actually like to retire with. Now, my husband and I'm sure like many of you, are planners, and we're in our early 30s and we've had our specific number in mind for quite a while now. So how much in assets and how much liquid money you'd like to have, because remember that obviously once you're retired, you'll be living off of about 4% of your invested assets each and every year. So if you want to keep living the lifestyle you have now, or if you have bigger aspirations, take those into account. Now let's talk for just a minute here about why, again, investing early and often and taking advantage of that compound interest is so crucial. So let's say you retire and you have just over $1 million in the bank, like that person we just talked about who waited to invest until they were 39 years old. So let's say you stick to the 4% withdrawal rate. That's roughly $40,000 a year, or about $3,300 a month to live on. Ask yourself, is that actually enough to pay your mortgage, car insurance, health insurance, groceries, and any other bills that you anticipate? Aside from that, is it enough to actually be able to do the things that you want to do, like maybe go on a vacation, move into a new house, or even get a new roof or do a home renovation if that's something that you plan on? Goal number 2 is to preserve and build capital. So at this point in your life, you really shouldn't be making any extravagant purchases. You should be solely focused on building lasting wealth. And if you are going to invest in something, make sure that it's something that you're actually going to see a return on. So for example, don't be HELOCing your house to go buy a supercar or something like that. Make sure that your priorities are really in order. The median net worth in this category is $288,000, with the average net worth being around $1.4 million. To be in the top 10%, you'll need over $2.6 million. And to be in the top 1% of net worth individuals in this age category, you'll need around $10 million. In terms of financial goals, there are 3 main goals to focus on. The first is to start actually planning what your retirement is going to look like. So at this point, you should be really thinking long and hard about what your retirement life is going to look like. Do you plan on taking up a new hobby? Do you want to do some traveling? Maybe you feel passionately and you want to volunteer in the community. So really figure out what your day-to-day life is going to look like and exactly how much it might cost you. And by the time you're in your 50s, even if you had kids, they're likely out of the house. So now would be a good time to try and get a feel for exactly what your monthly expenses might be, so that again, you can start planning all of that now. The second goal is to diversify your investments. Until this point, you've likely been investing in the S&P 500 or in particular stocks if you've had interest in doing so. But as you get closer and closer to retirement, you'll want to start diversifying your money. So it might be worth looking into more stable picks like ETFs, bonds, or even investing in real estate as long-term assets. The third goal is to know essentially what your retirement goals are. Do you want a retirement home in the Hamptons? Do you want to pay for your kids' college or wedding? Or maybe you're happier with just a more simple life. There obviously isn't a right or wrong answer. It's simply whatever is best for you and your lifestyle. So if at this point in your 50s, you're happy with the amount of money that you have invested and saved for retirement, then you may be able to breathe a little sigh of relief. On the flip side, if you haven't hit those bigger goals yet and you want to live a more lavish retirement style, then now may be those final few years of working for you that you really want to focus on making more money, saving and investing more money, and building that lasting wealth we were talking about. Now, there obviously isn't a wrong answer here. That's completely up to you to decide. But at this point in your 50s, you can do a very honest assessment and see if you're happy with how much money you've already saved for retirement. If so, that's great. Maybe you can relax a little bit. Or if you feel like you're behind a bit, then now are the years to really focus on increasing that income and saving and investing while you still can. The median net worth in this age range is $439,000, with the average net worth being just over $1.7 million. To be in the top 10%, you'll need $3 million, and to be in the top 1% of net worth individuals in this age category, you'll need about $13.5 million. So financial goals at this point are threefold. The first is to finalize your retirement plans. So make doubly sure that you have enough money, stay on top of how much you have saved and invested, and obviously how much your expenses are. Goal number 2, focus on protecting your money. At this point, your money should be invested in less riskier and more stable assets so that you can focus on preserving capital. Goal number 3 is estate planning. So if you don't already have this in place, make sure that you get this taken care of prior to retiring. So you should make sure that you have all of your beneficiaries listed somewhere, a healthcare and a financial POA or power of attorney, a living will, and also address who would get your assets if and when you pass away. So I hope that that video was helpful. Let me know in the comment section if you feel like these numbers are realistic and how you feel about building net worth in general. Now, as always, if you found this video helpful, please do me a huge favor and like this video and subscribe to my channel. I would absolutely love to have you. And you can feel free to follow me on my other social channels right here. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.